Chapter 2, on the mysteries of fasting and its inner conditions. Know that there are 3 levels of fasting: the fasting of the common faithful people, the fasting of the elect, and the fasting of the elect of the elect. The fasting of the common faithful people consists in keeping the stomach and private parts from satisfying their desires, as has been detailed above. The fasting of the elect consists in keeping the hearing, sight, tongue, hands, feet, and all other members of the body free from sin. The fasting of the elect involves the heart. It consists of fasting from worldly concerns and mundane thoughts, and completely refraining from focusing on anything other than God, Azza wa Jal. This fast is broken by thinking about anything other than God in the last day. That is, by thinking about anything in this world except what supports the deen and what is provision for the hereafter, and not this world. In fact, the people of the heart say, anyone whose concern during the day turns into pondering over what he will break his fast with at sunset is committing a sin. For this shows how little trust he has in God's generosity, fadl, and how little certainty he has that his provision is guaranteed. This is the level of fasting of the prophets, the veracious, and those who are near God. We will not dwell on trying to describe this, other than to say that its deepest meaning is to focus our entire aspiration on God, Azza wa Jal, to turn away from what is other than God, glory be to Him, and to be completely enveloped by the meaning of His words. Say, then leave them in their empty discourse, amusing themselves. Chapter 6, verse 91. As for the fasting of the elect, which is the fasting of the righteous, salihin, this consists in keeping the members of the body away from sin, and it is accomplished through 6 practices. 1. The first practice is to lower the gaze and refrain from letting one's vision extend to anything blameworthy or disapproved of, or to extend to anything that preoccupies and distracts the heart from the remembrance of God, Azza wa Jal. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the gaze is one of the poisoned arrows of Iblis. May God curse him. Anyone who refrains from gazing at something out of the fear of God, God, Azza wa Jal, will give them faith whose sweetness that person will find in his heart. And Jabir conveyed from Anas that the Messenger of God, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, 5 things will break the fast of a fasting person: lying, backbiting, slander, making a false oath, and gazing at something with lust. 2. The second practice is to guard the tongue from babbling, lying, backbiting, slander, obscenity, pettiness, disputation, and ostentation. Instead, it should be silent or occupied with the invocation of God, glory be to Him, and the recitation of the Quran. Such is the tongue's fasting. According to Bishr bin al-Harith, Sufyan al-Thawri said, backbiting annuls the fast. And Layth related that Mujahid said, 2 kinds of behavior ruin the fast: backbiting and lying. Concerning the same subject, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, fasting is a shield. So if one of you is fasting, let him refrain from obscenities and foolishness, and should he encounter someone who wishes to fight with him or be verbally abusive, let him say only, I am fasting. It is related in a tradition that during the lifetime of the Messenger of God, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were 2 women who were fasting and felt such hunger and thirst by the end of the day that they were about to die. So they sent a message to the Messenger of God, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, asking his permission to break the fast. In response, he sent them a large bowl and said, tell them to vomit into this what they have eaten. To the amazement of the onlookers, one of them vomited fresh blood and flesh that filled half the bowl, and the other did the same until it was completely filled. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam then said, These two fasted from what God makes lawful for them, but broke their fast on what God Most High forbade them. They sat down together to backbite people, and this is some of their flesh which they ate. The third practice is to keep the ears from listening to anything reprehensible, for anything that is forbidden to say is forbidden to hear. Thus, God, Azza wa Jal, made listening to lies equal to devouring illicit gains with his words. They are avid listeners to falsehood, devourers of what is unlawful. Chapter 5, verse 42. And also, why do the rabbis and religious scholars not forbid them from saying what is sinful and devouring what is unlawful? Chapter 5, verse 63. To be silent in the presence of backbiting is also forbidden, for as he says elsewhere, indeed, you would then be like them. Chapter 4, verse 140. Thus the Prophet ﷺ said, the backbiter and the one who listens to him are partners in sin. 4. The fourth practice is to guard the rest of the members of the body, the hands and the feet, from sin and from things that are disapproved of, and to keep the stomach from what is questionable at the moment of breaking the fast. It is meaningless to fast by refraining from what is lawful only to break the fast with what is forbidden. This is like building a castle and destroying a town. Lawful food harms by quantity, not by content, and fasting is meant to reduce that quantity. Someone who avoids a large dose of medicine because it might do him harm, but then takes a small dose of poison in its place is truly a fool. While forbidden food is a poison that is deadly to one's deen, lawful food is a remedy that works in small doses but harms in large ones. So the purpose of fasting is to reduce its quantity. The Prophet ﷺ said, how many of those who fast gain nothing from their fasts except hunger and thirst? This was said to refer to those who break their fasts with what is forbidden, or who refrain from lawful food but break their fast with people's flesh by backbiting, which is forbidden. It was also said that it refers to anyone who does not guard the members of his body from sins. 5. The fifth practice is to not eat so much at the time of breaking the fast, even though the food is lawful, that his stomach becomes completely full. For no vessel angers God Azza wa Jal more than a stomach that is filled, even with lawful food. How can fasting serve to overcome God's foe and subdue a person's appetite if, when breaking the fast, a person makes up whatever he missed in the afternoon or perhaps even adds to it a variety of foods? It has become a custom to store up all sorts of foods for Ramadan, such that, in that month, people eat what they do not eat in other months. Yet it is clear that the goal of fasting is to become empty and to break the desires in order to strengthen piety in the soul. If the stomach is deprived of food all day until the evening, such that its appetite is stimulated and its cravings grow stronger, and then it's fed all manners of delicacies to repletion, its sensual pleasure is only increased, and this leads to passions that were not there before. The spirit and mystery of fasting involves weakening the physical energy that Satan uses to turn people towards evil. And this weakening cannot be achieved except by reducing the intake of food. This means that someone should eat whatever he normally eats at night when not fasting. If he combines what he eats at noon with what he eats at night, he will derive no benefit from his fast. Indeed, among the manners related to fasting is to not sleep too much during the day, so that he can feel hunger and thirst, experience physical weakness, and thereby cleanse his heart. At night, some amount of that weakening should remain with him, so that night worship, tahajjud, and litanies are easier for him. In this way, maybe even Satan will cease to hover around his heart, and he will behold the dominions of the heavens. The night of power refers to the night during which some part of these heavenly dominions were revealed. And this is what is meant by the words of God Most High. Indeed, We sent the Quran down during the night of power. Chapter 97, verse 1. But he who places a feed bag between his heart and his breast is veiled. And simply emptying the stomach is not enough to lift that veil, as long as he does not also cease to aspire after anything but God, Azza wa Jal. This, in fact, is the whole goal, but it begins with reducing the intake of food. More about this will be elucidated in the book on food, if God Azza wa Jal so wills. 6. The sixth practice. On breaking the fast, the heart of the one who fasted should remain in suspense between fear and hope, because he does not know whether his fast has been accepted and he has been brought nearer to God, or rejected and he has incurred God's anger. This is how we should be, that is, in suspense, upon completing any devotional practice. Thus, it is narrated concerning Hasan al-Basri that on the day of Eid al-Fitr, that he passed by some people who were laughing, and he said to them, God, Azza wa Jal, has made the month of Ramadan to be a race course for his creatures, so that they might vie with one another during it. Some people take the lead and win the race, others lag behind and lose. But it is utterly amazing to find those who laugh and play on a day when those who took the lead won, and those who lagged behind lost. By God, if the veil were lifted, the one who does good would be totally absorbed by his good acts, and the one who does evil would be totally absorbed by his evil acts. This means that the joy of the one whose worship was accepted should completely distance him from idle play, and the loss of the one whose worship was rejected should close the doorway of laughter in his face. It was once said to Ahnaf bin Qais, "You are a very elderly man. Fasting will weaken you." To which he replied, "I see it as preparation for a long journey. And to endure in God's worship, glory be to Him, is easier than to endure His chastisement." These then are the inner meanings of fasting. And if you were to ask, how then do the jurists consider valid the fast of someone who pays no attention to these inner meanings, but only refrains from the desires of his stomach in private parts? What does that mean? Know that jurists of the outward base the conditions for the validity of an act of worship on proofs that are much weaker than the ones we have related concerning the inward conditions, especially in respect to such vices as backbiting. The only responsibility of those jurists is to make things easy for the common people who live in heedlessness and are occupied by the world. For the scholars of the hereafter, ulama al-akhirah, what is meant by validity is acceptance, and by acceptance they mean reaching the goal. They understand that the goal of fasting is for a human being to realize in his character some aspect of the character of God, Azza wa Jal, which in this case is his attribute of everlasting independence, and doing so, i.e., realizing this character, to imitate as much as possible the angels who are beyond desires and appetites. The human state is above that of animals because, by the light of the intellect, a human being can subdue his appetites, but his state is below that of angels, to the extent that appetites still control him, and combating them is a trial. Every time he becomes engrossed in his appetites, he descends to the lowest of the low, to the level of animals. And every time he overcomes those desires, he is raised to the highest of the high, to the level of angels. The angels are those who are near to God, Azza wa Jal, and so anyone who seeks to be like them in their nature is also brought near to God, Azza wa Jal. Indeed, to be like someone who is near to God is itself a way of being near to God. Here we speak, of course, not of physical nearness, but of character. If this, then, is the mystery of fasting according to the people endowed with understanding and the people of the heart, then what is the benefit of delaying one's meal and combining 2 meals in the evening while indulging other desires all day long? And if there were some benefit, then what is the meaning of the Prophet's words, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "How many of those who fast gain nothing from their fasts except hunger and thirst. Thus, Abu Darda said, "How excellent is the sleep of the wise, and how excellent are they, even their eating, and how they put the fasting and vigils of the foolish to shame. An atom's weight of worship by those who have inner certainty is better and more profitable than a mountain of worship by those estranged from God." This is also what a certain scholar meant when he said, how many a person who is fasting is not actually fasting, and how many a person who is eating is actually fasting. The one who is fasting while eating is a person who keeps the members of his body from sins as he eats and drinks, while the one who is breaking his fast while fasting is a person who hungers and thirsts but lets the members of his body do what they will. Those who understand the meaning of fasting and its mystery know that someone who abstains from food, drink, and sexual relations but breaks his fast with sins is like someone who makes the ablution by wiping with his hands the part of the body which must be washed 3 times but fails to use water. In doing so, he follows the outward form in respect to the number of times, but ignores the most important part, which is washing, and so because of his ignorance, his prayer is not accepted. On the other hand, someone who eats his food but fasts by keeping the members of his body away from what is disapproved is like someone who makes the ablution by washing the parts of the body once each. His prayer is accepted, God willing, because he fulfills the most important part of the ablution, even while not accomplishing what is meritorious. And the one who combines both is comparable to someone who washes each part of the body 3 times. To join the essential with the meritorious is to be complete. The Prophet ﷺ once said, "Truly, fasting is a trust, so let each of you guard his trust." And when he recited the words of God, Azza wa Jal, "Indeed, God commands you to render trust to whom they are due." Chapter 4, verse 58. He placed his hands on his ears and eyes and said, "Hearing is a trust, sight is a trust." If these were not part of the trust of fasting, why would he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, have said, "Then say, verily I am fasting," which is to say, I have been given my tongue as a trust to watch over, so why would I give it free rein to answer your insults in kind? Thus, it is clear that every act of worship has an outward and inward aspect, a husk and a kernel, and even the husks have various degrees, and each degree has levels. So now the choice is yours to make. Will you be satisfied with the husk rather than the kernel? Or will you join the ranks of those endowed with understanding?